30 years ago, in southern Ethiopia, near the Kenya border, an extraordinary peace ceremony took place in the Waito Valley. It happened at a place called Arbore, where the Hora, a group of a few thousand people, live. In this part of the Rift Valley, about a dozen agro-pastoralist groups, with their own languages and cultures, live in close proximity, at times in peace and others at war. The fighting was often over grazing areas and livestock raiding. In the early 1990s, conflicts worsened with the instability after the downfall of the military Derg regime, until the elders organized the peace ceremony. This story is about Grazmach Sura, the leader of the Hora people, and his lifelong struggle for peace. In earlier periods of fighting, he had been a refugee, taking his family far away to safer areas and appealing to the imperial administration to help him bring about peace. When conflicts broke out in the early 90s, together with his friend Balambaras Aike Barinas from Hamar, he launched the idea of inviting representatives of the different groups to a peace ceremony at Gondoroba, the site of a village that had been burnt to the ground in earlier fighting. In addition to the Hora, who organized the ceremony in Arbore, these included the Hamar and the Tsamai from the west, the Borana and the Wata from the east, the Konso and the Ari from the north, and from the Omo Valley, the Dasanech, the Nyangatom, and the Kara. At the time, I was teaching in the master's program in anthropology at Addis Ababa University, with other professors, including Ivo Strecker, who had studied the Hamar, and Marco Bassi, the Borana, and our students. We visited South Omo and heard about the planned initiative. Grazmach Sura invited the anthropologists to take part and help with the preparation. I had a small Video 8 camera and filmed the ceremony, which took place over 3 days in March 1993. On the first day, different groups debated separately and together under the shade of trees. Not all were ready to make peace, some arguing they wanted those who were guilty to be identified and sentenced. But the elders managed to persuade all those present to put aside their differences for the moment and walk through the Care gateway in a spirit of forgiveness and giving peace a chance. They discussed and agreed on the procedures they would follow for the ceremony. First, the religious leaders blunted the spears after Buno Elema, the senior Arbore woman, anointed their heads and their blessing wands with butter to give strength to their blessings. The spears were then broken and placed on an anthill for the termites to destroy the instruments of war. Then there was the exchange of various types of tools and sticks used by different groups to take home as mementos of their peacemaking. Finally, all participants were given garlands of fatty strips from the cattle sacrificed for the ceremony, which were placed around their necks and their wrists so they could become peace ambassadors, recounting what happened at the ceremony when they went back to their respective peoples and homes. On the third day, discussions were held with the administration about how to move forward beyond war to peace. Many leaders spoke about initiating joint development, especially irrigation projects, as had already happened in the 1970s after earlier famine, conflict, and peacemaking. Throughout the ceremony, the elders performed cursing war and blessing peace.
Nanwa diba, nanwa diba, imbore tanokai, nani imbore tanokai, wa diba, shammeha shamma wa arla.
Finally, the ceremony concluded with the elders' curses and blessings. A few years after the ceremony, I was invited by Ivo Strecker to Germany through his project on rhetoric culture. We used the film footage to produce a short film with Ivo's daughter Kyra, who had earlier made films on Hamar women with her mother Jean Lydell. More time passed, and 10 years after the peace ceremony, Ivo went back to Arbore with a filmmaker and met and conversed with Grazmach Sura, hoping to understand better what it was all about. It was then that the elderly Grazmach Sura made his worldwide appeal for peace and gave his final blessings and cursing of war. Ivo took his message and produced a film entitled Bury the Spear, which won a special award at the Paris Ethnographic Film Festival in 2004. Many more years passed before the peace ceremony became relevant once again. 15 years after the film Bury the Spear was produced, and a quarter of a century after the peace ceremony, Ivo and I went back to Arbore in 2019, together with the filmmaker Tesfahun Haddis. By then, Grazmach Sura had died. He had been buried at the site where the peace ceremony took place. His son, Hora Sura, who had played a key role in the organization of the ceremony and as a translator, recalled once more how it had all happened. Tesfahun produced an hour-long new version of the film in Amharic. We were about to show this version of the film in Ethiopia when war broke out with devastating consequences, so we waited till the current signs of hope for peace began to emerge. The Amharic film was finally premiered on the 10th of May 2022 by the Society of Friends of the Institute of Ethiopian Studies at Rasmakonnen Hall in Addis Ababa University, in the presence of Hora Sura, who came specially for the event from Arbore. The Minister for Women and Social Affairs, Dr. Ergoge Tesfaye, who herself had written her PhD thesis on customary conflict resolution, was the guest of honor. She gave a moving and scholarly speech, emphasizing how relevant this peace story had become in the current context. In the discussions after the viewing, participants advocated for the film to be seen on national television. So Solomon Girma and I produced a shortened version which was shown on the Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation's National Ethiopian Television on Saturday, May 28th, symbolically the 31st anniversary of the day of the downfall of the Derg regime. It was shown again twice the following day on Sunday afternoon and evening. Since then, the film has also been shown and discussed at a workshop organized by the Ministry of Peace in the city of Adama with representatives from other ministries. It has also been shown recently to graduate students at the Institute for Peace and Security Studies of Addis Ababa University and also to students at Lebawi Academy, a model school in Addis Ababa. Wherever it has been screened, the audiences, young and old, men and women, from different walks of life, seem to feel that it resonates with an urgent nationwide thirst for peace and reconciliation.
Sedai